Yes, good morning, dear viewer. If you are just tuning in, please share the link. Let me share the link so that we can start the broadcast or we can start the conversation. This is going to be an interesting conversation this morning, uh, Saturday, the 29th of November. Yes, dear viewer, again, once more, I'm your host this morning, Ernest Kumba, as usual. So, like we have sent out a communique, we will be looking at the fair leadership in the Lebialem, particularly in Fontaine subdivision, the main reason why Menji, the capital city, has remained stagnant in terms of development, despite the huge sum of money that we've been seeing, over 1.5 billion francs USA, that has been sent to the Council of Minji to take care of the development. Uh, since 6 years, 2018, when the current council executive came to office. It's over 6 years now. And when you look at Menji compared to other divisional headquarters in the region, you will be kind of think that things are not going well. Going well. You need to see the image for yourself. I don't need to sit here and tell you about that because sometimes we think that it is due to incompetence of the executive and the absence of the municipality, the absence of the administrative head, the delegate of health, the delegate of education. When all of these people are absent, you see that things are not going well. If you look at the health centers, or we call them integrated health center across Fontaine subdivision, ranging from Menji to Wenchen, back to Azi, up to Mbindia, Mbo, Ndumwe, and even the one in South is that none of these integrated health center is actually working effectively, or there's nobody there. But yet, our finding indicate that there have been credit line that has been collected by those that presumptively supposed to be heading this institution, but that is not the case. And of course, you will see that it goes across the BLM. Then when you come now to community or cultural development organization, you also see that at least they are doing well, but to an extent, but you also see that there's some kind of fair leadership because people are taking this position that we assume that they are incompetent. For example, like the case of the Kudu, because you won't imagine that somebody would donate books for students to go to school, and school started all the way in September. It is almost the end of first term. Those books are still lying in Boya. These are exercise book that somebody donate, that the organization just need to pay some money and go distribute this book, or take it to, say, to the closest place, Mary Head of Africa or at the Mariupol Center, and the principal or the head teacher from those schools will come and collect it. It is not happening. But of course, I'm not just saying this because it's theory, it's what has been done before. I think last year, the Fund of Fontem donated book to primary school in Lebanon. All what he needed to do was send those books to Seed of Wisdom. I think His Royal Highness Fochap and Fongun, they were there representing him, where we saw how those books were shared to different schools. Teachers came from different schools, from Jenache, Lekong, and came there and collected those books. So some of these things are sitting that if people have the way, they will be able to do it. And for that reason, we consider it is a fair leadership. Going back to 2018 in Legda, Cameroon, we saw that 120 million was signed from the Ministry of Finance by Mr. John Fongang as the president of Legda, Cameroon, for agricultural improvement, for youth agricultural development project in Lebialem. But you go across the BLM, you never see any agricultural activities, neither the tools or whatsoever. The 120 million disappear into thin air. And we consider this fair leadership or incompetency. Dear viewers, the list is long. I would like to bring in Dr. Folfak Emon, who many of you know him, he's an oncologist. He has done a lot of research in different areas, but at some time he has gone beyond just a mere physician where he manages health institution, he has management skills, and he has also been very involved in many community activities. Like when I bring him in here, we'll discuss some of those introduction. For example, he also mentioned a bioethic medical research center, which means that bioethic in medicine means that doing the right thing from the wrong thing. So he used that skill and exploit the community. How can you do something? How can you do the right thing? For example, in 2019, when the pandemic hit, he was the first to start organizing the head of the committee of the Kudu USA Humanitarian Services. He set up a committee that today, that committee has been transformed to what is now known as the Kudu Medical Mission in Cameroon, where an extended medical outreach is currently going on now in the village of Takwe. So this is somebody who is very passionate about the common man on the ground. Even dated back to about 12, 10 years ago, where he started advocating for the Ngundeng Azi Nchonyahan Road. That should be an alternative road on which today that road seems to be passable. And I hope that by the dry season, the health committee or the road infrastructure committee will be able to complete that road. I mean, of course, you know that he has been with Professor Lumumba, who is a Pan-Africanist, a heavyweight, somebody, human rights lawyer who has fought for the rights of the common person. I mean, he has a very rich background, but I will not like to talk more. Where I will bring Dr. Frefak Emon in here so that at least to ask him so that most of you can understand where he's coming from and how he's using those skills and those kind of volunteerism to help the people of Lebialem and particularly the Bang people. Let me bring Dr. Emon in here. Yes, Dr. Emo, I know sometimes I say you are my mentor. Is of course, you are welcome to Gaza Media. At least I'm happy to welcome you this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Kumba, and thank you, Gaza Media, for according me this opportunity to address our people on the ground and their exchange with those that are online today.
Yeah,
And thank you for everything you do. And I think Gaza Media has really been an eye opener, as they say that sometimes the repression thrives when the sky is shut, so that there is no light. It thrives when there is darkness. And so, what Gaza Media has done is to actually provide people that opportunity to shine some light on many of the dark areas of, some of them most morally depraved things that have been happening in Lebialem. And thank you for that. I think
yeah,
it's really
yes,
been quite good to see.
yes, dear viewer. With the conversation, when we get to some places, we will turn into one language for to also help our parents to understand. But Dr. Emo, in your area of bioethic, can you briefly just maybe explain to us? I'm not saying that we should go so much in depth. What do you do in that area?
So, as you know, medicine is a very, very complicated field. Cancer, even more complicated than that. So, and as it's a huge institution that we are at the Ohio State University, and usually will come up with very challenging situation. And the question is, what is the right thing to do? And so, and the bioethics committee, which I'm a consultant, part of the consultant group, that actually, when those complex situations come in, it is us that they will call us to really look at where you may want to think about things like culture, family, other things that intertwine to make systems, and how that affect a particular situation that you are actually addressing on the ground. So it's becoming such a big thing, and I think one of the other areas which I've written a lot on that I'm happy to that my the organization has been co-opting me to continue to work on that is the cost, is to make sure that we have cost-effective drugs to treat cancer and other medical things in Africa. So thank you for that.
Yes, and dear viewer, if you may want to know, he has been on CNN, been on different network here in the US, try to educate the general public in some of this area, like in the prostate cancer, where he has done a lot of extensive research. Dr. Emon, you also panel you also partner with some group that you have been helping a lot of our people in the area of oncology in the clinic in what I think is somewhere in Susa. We have not really had time to do a presentation, but I think the information people have benefited from that network through you. Do you want to share a little bit more on that, or maybe just take about 1 minute or to say something in regard to that?
Yeah, the program you mentioned is the institution is called Cameroon Oncology, and it's actually in Bikoko in Douala. And I know that so many of our people have actually benefited from that. And so what we do is to run. I run that program as the lead medical oncologist from here, and so that is our own way of giving back. Because if many people know, Cameroon, it's really, really, really very, very backward when it comes to cancer care and even understanding what is cancer. And so there's just no um, equipment to meet the needs of the people in Cameroon. And so we've been partnering with, really helping out with Cameroon Oncology. So I run that through a program that we call telemedicine. And the other thing that we've done so that our people may also benefit from that is through some of the work that I've done internationally. We now partner with an Indian big healthcare chain called the Indian Institute of Medicine for Health Science, so that when we're not able to handle situations in Cameroon, I can easily get people there. And then when they get there, of course, those that have gone there can testify to you how they get treated, and they realize that they get given heavily discounted prices compared to what they would have paid just because,
Mhm.
So I mean, that's our own little way of giving back. We hope at least that there would be an enabling environment, someday, so that many of us actually out here would not only do this through telemedicine, but bring this skill set back home. And yeah, so that's the little we can do for our people. And we should come back at some point, as you say, and have a whole program, because there's a lot that we should
Yeah.
be doing, telling our people and guiding our people um, how
Yes, I know to have access to some of these services that
Cameroon
can give them.
Oncology has been partnering
Mhm.
with Lebialem, with Lebang Health Campaign for the last several editions. For cancer, to do cancer screening. We've even sent out a doctor and then sometimes nurses, to Fontem actually. So yeah, those are the things that they do. So yeah.
Yes, Dr. Emo, I know you have gone international. Sometimes you will flew from US to Africa, presented talk regarding Pan-Africanist with Professor Lumumba. Those that know him should know who I'm referring to. This is somebody that he doesn't shy away when it comes to dictatorship in Africa, when it comes to good governance, doing the right thing. I will start it. This is somebody, I mean, you have been involved with him, you have been very close to him. Yes, I just wanted to like say what in that area, what do you usually do when you are in that kind of panel in discussion in that Pan African endeavor with Dr. Paulo Lumumba?
Yeah, so as you said, yeah, so I'm a patron, I'm one of the patrons of the PLO Lumumba Foundation. And what we do is we've gone to many state houses in Africa, met many presidents, met many of their cabinets. And, but, that part of the program, usually we would also lead a group that we call the Pan African Investment Group, and that bring people from across the globe to explore the opportunities to share, to help, to assist, collaborate with communities, to see how we can be able to, to bring our own little, contribution, to the development of Africa. But as we also sit there, we'll do a lot of engagement. We'll do a lot of, maybe sometimes have one-on-one with people, with ministers, with leaders about the need of good governance as the predicate for everything that and then rethinking about the kind of education, going away from this education of dependence that we inherited from the colonialists to a dependent on education of free men, which Africa needs to grow. So yeah, so now there is a couple of Pan-African institutes that have been created now. One in Kenya and another one in Somaliland, where we just came from, and then there's another one that I'll be there in February for the one in Zambia to be launched. So yes, then there's a group. We mentor a lot of youth across Africa, especially on the area of again good governance, because that is critical. I mean, Africa, you probably realize that we have this. It's a tragedy that we have so much resources, yet when we look back, it's almost like to use an analogy that an African, I mean, an elephant gives birth to a mouse. Because otherwise, how do we have the many resources that we have? We can feed the entire world. We have hydroelectricity to, like, supply the entire world. We have um, the best climate and the best weather patterns in the world. We have just about everything. The youth population currently of the world, one third of the youth population is from Africa. So we really have everything that we need to be able to grow. And yet, this is a place where each time you turn around, all you see is misery, all you see is poverty. And but then the problem is, as you're looking at that, there is a class of nouveau riche, and that is affecting our own Lebialem, as we will get to as well, where these people who are supposed to be leaders, how do they see themselves? They see themselves more like the colonialists used to see Africa, which is like a farm where you go there and then extract all the extractable. And unlike the colonialists who actually felt the need to actually go and settle there, a lot of our leaders treat the place as if they have contempt for their people. And this is the sad part of it. So we that's those are that's the work that we try to do across
Yes.
Africa with the
Yeah,
foundation.
Dr. Emo, and now I'm listening this. I think I've never, I know you for a long time. I think this area that we have never really talked about it. You mentioned governance, good governance, several times when you were describing the kind of work that you do with the foundation of Professor Lumumba in the Pan African thing. Now, coming now to leadership, I mean, you have that kind of experience in terms of the skill that a leader is supposed to be around or in the community where they serve, so that they can also be able to feel the pains or also be able to identify need base from the grassroots, not something that you sit somewhere, you go there maybe 2 hours and come back. When you look at Lebialem, I will start with the parliamentarian himself, that in the Terrace subdivision in Lebialem, as they call it, he doesn't have regional offices or subdivisional offices, whatever they may want to call it, say in Wabane and Law and Fontaine South Division, where this will be able to relay to him. Because somebody have to make an argument that, oh, he cannot be everywhere every time. Because here in the US, you see senators, they have their regional office. I remember Cheryl Brown in Ohio has offices in Akron, Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati, in major city, and even in Dayton. So when you come to our own leader, what do you make of that?
So, Ernest, this is an extremely important question. Cast your mind to the Halcyon days, the days when the BLM actually looked like it was about to take off. The parliamentarian, when I was in secondary school, the parliamentarian, the late Honorable Fonju, was actually a resident he was my
Yes.
teacher in
Yeah.
grammar school. He was my history teacher. And when he got into parliament, he stayed there. So we would go, and then he would rally the people. We would go and fix the roads on Saturday on Saturday mornings, and everybody was happy to do it because the parliamentarian is on the road. The fun was in the palace, All right. And even when the fund is not in the palace, you know that the fund is going to come. All our chiefs were in the palaces, right? And then so, but which means that when Fonju would pass on the same route that the average person was passing, that everybody else was passing. So because he passed on that same road, he drank the same water. If he were sick, he used the same hospitals, and so on and so forth. So because he used this opportunity, I mean, he used these services. At the time, there was no electricity, but had there been electricity at the time, then if there was darkness, he would have suffered the same. So this is very, very critical. Like when you have current crop of leaders, the parliamentarian that you talked about, Honorable Faju has been parliamentarian for how long? Maybe 30 years, right? Ask him how many times he's visited, Fontem or Lebialem. I mean, you even talk about the idea of even having regional offices. Just the regional offices is not really, it's a symptom of a problem. It's like when somebody has a fever, the fever is actually, a manifestation of a bigger disease. The
Yeah.
disease here is the total absence of leadership,
So,
where the people who are leading have no idea. We don't even want to call them leaders. They are more rulers than leaders, because, and in the words of George Orwell in Animal Farms, where they have thought about themselves. When they come to campaign to you, they'll say, "Oh yeah, we are all equal. All animals are equal." But when they get there, the next minute is some are more equal than others. Fortune stays in their own lane. How many times was he visit Lebialem? Even before the crisis. How can you know the people's problem? Your children don't go to school in Lebialem. You don't use the underfunded, understaffed, poorly constructed hospitals in Lebialem. You don't use the death traps that are called roads in Lebialem. You don't, if the electricity is flickering back and forth, you don't use it, right? I mean, you have your AC. How do you even relate to the people's problem? So that at the end of the day, now we see it's the mayor is the same thing. The funds is in of Lebialem. Many of them have now deserted. The palaces are empty. So when you think about a community and you think like Lebialem and you think about what leadership ought to be, what are the pillars of leadership? It ought to be that is the traditional leadership,
mhm.
incarnated by our funds, and then of course the chief becomes some stuff, and then you have to have the elites, and then of course you have the intellectual class, and then you have to have the political class and the religious class. And of all of this, who resides in Lebialem?
I
And
think
have
all
you,
the religious, all the
right?
religious, the clergy.
Yeah, and the clergy is, to the extent, is the Reverend Father, right? And there
Yeah.
is somebody else above him who is the bishop in the case of the Catholic Church, right? We understand, but at least sometimes they may do an effort. They may make an effort to come and there once in a while. So until the people of Lebialem realize and say, we're not that stupid, we're not that worthless, that we're not inferior human beings. The person who is going to lead us may be either a parliamentarian, the mayor. If you do not reside in Lebialem itself, you lose your legitimacy and you should not be a leader. If you think that Lebialem is so rural and so backward for you to go and live in, then don't represent them. How do you represent them? How do you only want to get the benefits of the office without the burdens of the office? You talk about Sherrod Brown here. I have lived in many places. I've lived in Massachusetts. I've lived in Vermont, and now here in Ohio. Everywhere where I have lived, and I've been, participated in community building, and I've actually had my number has actually been retained by the senator. So everyone now and then, the senators get a what we call a town hall, which is a virtual town hall, right? And
Mhm.
I participate. They will call me. I will see somebody who will just say, "Hey, your senator would have a town hall with your congressional delegation," and then we would have the opportunity to ask questions. And so this is how, if you want to go back and reclaim our for the people, for the leadership to have a functional leadership, that leadership must be able to suffer the burdens of the people. We don't need people to be PhD holders or engineers or lawyers or whatever to lead the people. Leadership is not that. What we need is morals. What we need is somebody who finds themselves, who sees themselves in the people suffering. That's the only, and somebody with a vision. And sometimes we confuse all these certificates and for education, which is too far from the truth.
Yes, and Dr. Emo, and I mean, and this is the core of the whole issue that we are facing in Lebialem, in the bank, or almost in all the fundum across the board. Because sometimes we just sit there and say, when this will think, for example, Menji, which we consider the face of Lebialem, if you look back to Kumba, that of Meme, you look at Limbe, yeah, these are older division. If you look at Manfe, you see how they're functioning. But when you turn your eye and look at Menji, I mean, sometimes it is shameful. Chang is the capital city or the headquarters of Menwa division, just equivalent to Menji. But you see, the mayor, the executive council, or whatever they are doing, they are not there. When when the water project, the scandal of the 1 million, people were in Menji, they didn't have water, they didn't know where to carry water. The mayor did not suffer all this effect, or neither any of the council member, so they will not even feel the effect. I mean, the road issue, there was a bridge at Befua that has not been repaired. Even up to now, I will speak. I mean, this is total failure because the mayor is not in the city where he ought to be able to witnessing that, hey, I have allocated money for this bridge. Why has it not been done? Or whatever. Because he stay somewhere else, it's none of his business.
Yeah, the mayor was here last year, right? This past
Yeah,
summer.
this July, it was July, a few months ago.
So he had a town hall, and I had only a few minutes to exchange with him, and I found the man so incompetent, like so lacking in the understanding of his people's problems. Okay, because and then when you come to realize that the man lives in Yaoundé, so no doubt, all right, no doubt, the man lives in Yaoundé. So if he lives in Yaoundé, how do you understand the people's problem? Look, Lukudu have now thought about, as we were talking about the road project, which I had been singing for more than 20 years, and asking and advocating for the equipment. Thank God, we organized ourselves until up to the point where we're able to actually procure these pieces of equipment, at least not yet a full complement of it, but then to go and actually disenclave the place so that we could get a route, connect the route from Chang through, from Gunding through Azi to Menji. And of course, we couldn't do the main route because of bizarre laws in Cameroon, like the one
Hmm.
from Ndungatet down, because of bizarre laws. These are government routes, quote unquote. Um, Even though the government, the people that have been getting contracts from that have been using it more like a slush fund. They go and pretend
Yeah.
they get the money from there and then they put it in their pocket. But we wanted to say, okay, let us just at least disenclave the place. It turns out the mayor, has the council has some pieces of road equipment which could have complemented the road equipment that Lukudu has. But where are those road equipment? They were somewhere in Tico. Okay, actually, and the mayor is very proud to say this. I mean, in every other place where else, you will kind of like, it will call for the mayor's resignation and impeachment, all right, and trial, because those equipment were not given to you to go and use it for contract somewhere else. They were given to you to use to build the roads for the people
Of
to
that, of their municipality.
for your municipality for people to be on. And so Lokudu has now come and built and had this these pieces of equipment. Even on the Gunding route, there were patches of the route that the council accepted or maybe took on and wanted to build. Go look at that work. They built a small fraction of it, and like
Yes, I
told me,
remember. Yeah, it was 800 meters to
yeah,
pave. Out of the
and
800 meters, they did
yeah,
25.
and they have abandoned it. They have abandoned it. When you talk to them, they will kill, they will, claim insecurity. They will claim all sorts of issues. But the insecurity that you should be claiming is the insecurity of your competence, right? It's that you are incompetent. That is the first. You need to look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, what am I really doing? And I heard you talk about what the 100, I mean, more than 1 point something billion CFA that
Yes.
has actually been allocated to the Menji Council within the last couple of
Yeah.
within the last
Within the last 6 years. Yeah. Within the last six
within the
years.
last year or so. I mean, go look at the work. Does that place look like a place that has had $100 million, 100 million CFA in investment? Does that look like it?
Not at
Does
all.
that so? In the only reason why this is the case is number one, the people don't live there. Number two, everybody now is become a partisan politician, militating with this gang in Yaoundé called, in Cameroon called CPDM, the most dangerous organization in the whole of Cameroon. And number three, it's not that they militate with this, but they are trying to actually co-opt every organization, every person who actually has the interest of the people at home.
Mhm.
Every organization, they went from actually just individual. Now, unfortunately, they have now co-opted our cultural organization, which was once a safe space for people to
Yeah.
actually come and discuss and deliberate. If you know what we call lemo in in where lemo means, you just have to be part of that community to
There.
have access to Lomo, right? We don't need to know your politics. We don't need to know your faith, your religion, or things, any other thing that divides people. Once you are, if you are from JA and you go to JA, and it's your birthright to be in Lomo NJ. Okay? Now, if you are from Labang, the same thing. If you are from the world, the same thing, and so on and so forth. But think about it. When people then begin to co-opt these people to start using them as arms, as wings of political party, such that we now see Lukudu, USA, Lukundem, Egda, or whatever, or I mean, Lokudu Cameroon, not Lokudu USA. I beg your pardon. Lokudu Cameroon, Cameroon, Egda, whatever, Lokundem or whatever. When you start seeing this now, their name as contributors in
So
a political organization, you have to just say this is absolute moral collapse because, and it is not like these people don't know what they are doing. Okay, they know exactly what they're doing. They were playing a game. Then maybe, and this is what our people need to know. You've had a situation whereby the CPDM itself, and I challenge everybody to pick me up on this and let us do it. If you go and ask in Lebialem and ask and conduct a fair, free, and fair election in a sacred ballot, look, CPDM cannot have 10% in Lebialem. It's impossible. Not the party that has been killing them, not a party that has actually plundered their people for this many years. But think about it. All the mayors, the parliamentarian, now the funds, now the presidents of the
the donor organization.
government organization, and now the development organization itself becomes part of that particular body. What on earth is going on? The answer is simple. These people knew, they sat in Yaoundé and knew that there was no way our people were going to vote for them. What did they do? They knew that if you arm twist the fund's hands, if you arm twist every so-called elite's hand, if you then get the cultural organization to not only to donate and have their name donated on the sheet,
See.
then they can then come tomorrow. When they come tomorrow and rig the election as they rigged it, they can then show you and say, yeah, look, the people were all with us, right? Because if
Yeah.
Lukudu is contributing to
Okay.
political to support a political party, it means that all of us, as all the bank children who are member of that organization,
Are contributing.
are contributing. The same thing with Egda, means that also Ota. The same thing with Lukunda, means that all the and this is where the evil genius of the alpha male in Lebialem Portaso is, right? Because he has bullied these he has browbeaten the people, and but where do our leaders keep their heads? And
Yeah.
this is exactly what they did. And you got to ask yourself, guys, where do you keep your own brains? How do you not actually see this? That it is totally unacceptable. It is unethical. It is imprudent. It is absolutely, it's morally
Wrong. No.
wrong, to actually begin to take us into those organizations. I was just seeing some what do you call it, like some statistics that there are 82 parties, 82 political parties in Cameroon, right?
Yeah.
So if every one of this political party had to contribute money, I mean, every organization, every cultural organization had to contribute money into each one of these political parties. Where How much do we have for development?
Yeah. Yeah, Dr. Emo, because you see, like how much. I mean, you have been the champion. I will talk specifically to the Kudu. You've been the champion of fundraising. You and Eda Pajo, a friend that. I mean, you can go back and look at the clip. I'm always there taking this my videos. In every convention, you are there shouting at the end, "We've done this. Oh, we are this. We are this." Your face is everywhere, having basket around, raising money to go help the place. Then it puzzles me that you see this people they come in, and if you go and look at that list, I believe those from Cameroon contributing, they may not have even contributed to the equipment pool that you want to construct this road. But you see, in less than a month, people were able to raise 14, 15 million. You ask yourself, like, so these people have this kind of money in Cameroon
Yeah,
that they could have contributed to develop the place.
yeah. So in the Lebialem in total, I put up the tallies. At least that's
Yeah.
what was made public. It was
Mm-hmm.
around 42.8 million
Uh-huh.
CFA francs, right? In Fontem
Subdivision area.
subdivision itself, it was about 14 point something million, right? So that is the money. Yes, if you pick up the money and then you do the math, probably out of those places, Fontem subdivision is Leban, Jogi, and Sota,
Yeah.
correct?
Yes.
So I'm almost certain by just looking at the numbers, at least half to two-thirds of those may have come from
Lebanon.
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 Okay, and I just I'm carving this out only to make a point about the road equipment pool that you mentioned, and not only the road equipment pool, but this is a place where children are not going to school, and the ones who go to school don't have books, right? It
Mhm.
takes it's taking some of our donors, some of our philanthropists to actually put a doctor in the hospital in Ver, to have run that hospital for now, taking us to help with supply of medicines and all whatnot and so on and so forth. It's taken some other philanthropies in the led by the Sueza USA to have reopened Seed of Wisdom and actually able to contribute. Many of us contribute to pay, for some of the students' school fees there, so that the cost of the school fees is held down, so the average child can, can go to school. You
So,
look at the GBHS Fontem. We're now in the process of reconstructing. Go back and ask these people, all of those people with those names on it. Find out and show me the name of every individual, in any individual amongst those people. Just find out from that list and find out how many of those people contributed in any of those good causes. Just don't talk about the roots yet,
yeah.
and ask the question. And
Then
you
that will
know,
really, yeah, that will really tell you what we are discussing here.
Yeah, and the other thing that really amazed me, it was just not amazed, but more, I don't know whether the amazed is the word, but it's a moral outrage, right? Was the fact that for several 6 months, the president of Lukudu, Cameroon now, has been in office, I probably think about 6 months. All right.
Yes.
Okay. And usually when you get somebody gets into office, he can bring you his plan of action and say, these are my proposals. This is what I want to do. And they would go to the different organizations that constitute that and then look back and say, and market that plan and say, this is what I really want us to do together. Now, even though he has not brought that, but when you have asked him, you talk about the books. Can you go deliver the books? Or can we do this? What did they say? Insecurity. They invoke insecurity, right? That is,
Yes.
there is insecurity, or the Lebialem is very, very insecure. We hear this nonsense from their lips every day. But they went and come there for 2 weeks. They were in that same Menji that is
Yeah.
so insecure for 2 weeks, right? For 2 weeks.
Wait.
And yeah, and nobody talked about insecurity at that point. And then, of course, right now, when you come back now, and of course, after the election, despite all what they did, the people still overwhelmingly voted for somebody who had promised them hope, for dialogue. And these same people would go back, sit back, and had the audacity to go back and rig this election and turn this election and give it to somebody who is so demented we don't even know. We cannot even say whether the man knows his left from
What
his
is
right.
going on?
So you look at that and tell me I mean, so how can that community move? The 1.5 billion, I'm bringing this actually to make a point. This is why I was taking this a little long. Because the reason
Yeah.
why that money, we don't see that money, is because if you look back deeper, every person who is actually all the thieves that are taking that money and not doing the contracts, they all those people, they know the people who are in power. Okay, there is
Hmm.
no way these people would have been taking, these contractors would have been swindling this money and doing what they did, what they have done over the years, and there would be no accountability if the people that we just mentioned in power
Yes.
are not aware. All right, they are either accomplices directly by
Yes.
omission, by
Hmm.
commission or by omission. Either way, they lose their legitimacy as leadership completely. Because it cannot even be. In fact, I was just so shocked, like to see that figure. And then they asked the parliamentarian. The parliamentarian will tell you, oh, by the laws, this is what we are not supposed to do X, Y, or Z. Everybody has an alibi. Everybody has an alibi. That is the very definition of failed leadership. Because when you get into a point where the leader is no longer accountable, the very first way, the very first accountability is for oneself. You got to look at, I mentor so many and I train so many students, so train so many doctors. As when I am doing when I'm doing a review with somebody, or when I'm doing an interview to admit a student or to a program, the one thing I want you to be able to tell me is to get to somewhere where you say, yeah, this was my error. I could have done better. Because I mean, the Socrates said, a world, a life that is not worth reviewing was not worth living. So when you are already blaming everybody else but you,
Body else.
right,
You
the
don't take responsibility for something.
the problem is
Yeah.
you. You cannot even contract. You cannot even you can't even correct it. So that is a sad state of events. I know I've gone
Yeah.
round on this, but it was really necessary for me to
Yeah.
really.
No. No. Yeah. It's like saying if you cannot really identify your own weakness, then you can never even correct yourself to better yourself up. Dr. Emon, let's talk about this cultural development organization. Me and you are here in the US. We know this law that it is forbidden for a cultural development organization to give money to a political party. Say like you that your face is always up there, raise money, ask people to give money to go help, maybe build water, or pipe-borne water, or construct a farm to market road. And if the government in the US see you donating that money to a political party, what will be the ramification?
So the ramification is simple. You lose your NGO
Status.
status. All right. And when you lose your NGO status, then you begin to pay taxes on every income expenditure. And then you are now like a for profit organization. And even worse, the fact that you are a political, you become an arm of a political wing. What that may mean is that think about if you get here and there is somebody here who doesn't like the politics of that particular political party organization that you are contributing to, right? So that is the ramification in the nutshell, first of all. But the other thing that is at the level of the government, at the level of the people. Remember that this money is raised by our people, okay? And
Hmm.
I have just told you that I don't think you interact with. You are here in the U.S. and you
Yeah,
interact with people. Tell me how many people you've seen in good conscience who are not thieves themselves or aspiring thieves who would support CPDM at this point. Tell me how many.
maybe
Have you seen
zero.
any? Have you
No,
interacted
zero.
with any?
No, no, I don't think there is any genuinely will really support.
But these our people who are you are going to ask them to donate money, and then they are donating the money, and then you are using part to support a moribund party, a murderous party, the party that has been plundering their community for 60 years, and for 8 of those 60 years has plunged us into war, that has raised our villages to, I mean, some of them, some of our villages to ashes, and has caused our kids not to go to school for this length of time. You tell me that if I came back and I asked you, Ernest Kumba, and I said, Ernest, I need you to actually donate money, and you realize that I was going to donate that money, part of that money was going to go and support a political cause you do not agree, CPDM that you don't agree, would you give me that money?
No, 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 no. It won't.
This is
Won't.
the problem, right? As you say, look, in Ohio, we raise 30,000 or 30 something thousand on the
Yes,
floor.
but around 37. Yeah,
Yes, in Washington D.C., we raise about 67,000 on the floor,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
In Boston, we
Boston.
raise about 105,000 on the floor, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
And here's what the problem is. In fact, I actually flew from Africa in one of our missions, to come back here to come and do the fundraising and then go back. And so that if we had had time to plan, because you could see the trajectory,
Hmm.
we would have been able to have raised at least 150,000 in Boston alone. All right, one night.
Yeah.
That is thing. And you are looking and we're seeing that our projection was that by the time we get to Virginia next year, we should be able to raise at least that 150 to $200,000. We should, and we can. The people in Lebialem, the traditional leadership in Lebialem, and the leadership generally, they really failed to grasp the potential
Yeah.
that they have. All right, the potential they have. There has a the BLM has got to be one of the most blessed divisions. And
Hmm.
I mean, there's in the Bible they will talk about the stone that the Buddha rejected has become the
Yeah. The cornerstone become the main pillar.
okay. Here, actually, out here, you see when you look at the number of kids from the BLM with the potentials that they have, right? You just marveled at what the possibilities could be. Were we to have a leadership back home that actually was guided by the same principles that used to guide our people: morality, justice, and compassion and fairness. If we still had this, can you imagine? Can you just imagine what these people can come and what we can do together? But when you come and then you come and personally, I would tell you there is absolutely no way. I'm only glad that Lokudu USA had nothing to do with
With
that
the,
contribution. And because had Lokudu USA had made any contribution in that, personally, I would never contribute to Lokudu USA anymore. I don't contribute to political organizations, at least not the ones that the murderers, like the ones in Cameroon. I will not. So we must be sure that the president of Lokudu, Cameroon, must understand. I don't think that he understands the weight of the office that he has. And so by just the idea that he will show up, he can, and first of all, and be a member, a partisan politician, and have his name on that. It's completely unacceptable, morally, ethically, and and prudentially. These are
Yeah.
not acceptable. But then, worse still, you go to Menji, you introduce yourself as the president of Leban, um, of Lukudu National.
Hmm.
All right,
Yeah.
and you are not there. You become a partisan. You're part of the what do you call it? Like the election. He was the chairman of one of the electoral offices there in
Yeah.
yeah.
The police
So
station or whatever.
yeah, polling station or whatsoever. And then you now you talk about when you do all of this, you are engaging Leban in what Leban has not asked you to do. And in every sane organization, actually, the man should be resigning or articles of impeachment should be submitted for Leban people to say no. That's you overstepped your bounds. We didn't ask you to do that in our name. You did that in your own name.
Yes, Dr. Emma, you remember because the why I really wanted us to talk about it because if this were to happen, I mean, I'm glad that you are able to really present it in a very clear way that people will be able to see that if the Kudu USA will be involved in this, I think one of the areas that you may not have mentioned, I mean, you talk for yourself particularly, and you do know the consequences that will have affected. I mean, I'm glad that you were able to show the statistic, the trajectory, the exponential rise for the past couple of years. How if the Kudu USA may have eventually donated to this political party, do you know what will happen to the current organization right now?
No, that's what I
So,
told you. Like
yeah,
it would collapse. Okay,
exactly, yeah,
the organization will collapse. And I was just telling you that me, I would not have donated. All right. Let me tell you that when this happened, I had to go back and actually make sure that none of us, our organization here, did not contribute a dime to that misadventure. And so
and Dr. Emo, I think this is one of the because there has been this discussion of merging this organization to become general. Now, when you begin to see things happening like this, then you begin to ask yourself if they could become general, and now the Kudu USA become a branch of the Kudu general, then the general president go and begin to politicize the office of the Kudu general and begin to mobilize, raise money, and give to a political party. The Kudu USA suck into that. I mean, I'm just saying, hey,
yeah.
is this what people would really want to do? I mean, if we were be trying to become together to become part of it, then this is happening. Then I mean, this gives the Kudu USA maybe a second time and say, hey, this discussion that has been going on, we really need to think about ourselves.
And not only Lokudu USA, right? Of course, Lokudu USA, we need to think about ourselves. That is, my thought about this, and
Yeah,
including a name change, because this has actually been affecting us in ways that even when I go to raise these funds, each time you are trying to raise funds, there are always people who would, point to some of the malfeasance of the Kudu Cameroon. And
yeah,
if we're not there debating, we're debating failed projects, we're debating unsupervised projects, we're debating their inability to be able to actually even contribute their own dime. The lack of imagination on the part of the leadership. These are all the things. So we cannot be in Cameroon. I hear if people say, "Oh, it is not illegal for the president of an organization to be president, to be a partisan politician." There in America, it is illegal. It is illegal.
yeah,
And so we must begin to think and think very, very carefully. And no doubt, me and you are actually even talking about this. No doubt, the organization in Cameroon also cannot live up to its true potentials, because if the man in the president general is a card carrying member of a particular political party, and you were part of Lukudu, and you were president of Lukudu Yaoundé, or Lukudu Bafoussam, or Lukudu Bamenda, or whatever, and you were of an opposition party,
party.
right?
Yes,
Why would you want to be able to to work
The
with
only
the
money to go and give to your opponent.
is in fact, as you know, it is not just any normal opponent in Cameroon, right? This is a place where the people's vote has been stolen, and post-electoral violence has already killed how many people? 100 people or more. All right, in Cameroon, and many of those are who the kids who were protesting, because they were in the opposition. How many of those would have been Bangwa kids if they and of an opposition when the president of their so-called organization that rallies all of them, that they would have been contributing their own funds, would have been on the opposite side,
Right.
right? When they're on the opposite side. And you know that many of them are the ones who are actually going to give the names, identify the people they believe are quote unquote troublemakers because
Yeah.
they are of the opposition. Okay? And this is the sad part of it. Think about Fontem Lafang. The stories goes, we were not born, but that at the time of Southern Cameroons, when you had more than you still had a more than one political party, genuine political party. Fontem Lefang, everybody would come to him, all the leaders of the political organization, and he will call them and he say, look, if you are of KNDP or you are of whatever political, you are still a son of or daughter of Leban,
Yeah.
right? And so he will bless you and say, go and do well. If you go get something, it would be for
Yeah.
the interest of the bank.
Lebanon.
All right. So this is where he himself never, that's why he never got himself involved in politics. And so since the Lokudu actually is the collective, is that safe space
Yeah.
of
Where everybody can belong.
everybody can belong. This is the reason why ethically it is impermissible for the president or the leadership of that organization who is sitting to be partisan. If you can come and lead the organization, but then after that, if you want to go and use the your put it on your CV to go and become partisan, you must necessarily resign first, from the leadership of an organization that is apolitical. The word apolitical, it means it is apolitical. And so we must really go back to these very fundamentals. This is the reason why this leadership failed, because again, the things that the predicates, the common predicates, you take courses in the university, all right? You took courses in the university, and there are certain courses that are called prerequisites, right? Which means you need to actually have a fundamental understanding of certain courses in order to qualify to take another course. All right. So the predicate of good leadership is actually, first of all, appreciating the reason why certain rules exist, understanding the organization profoundly, which brings me to part of the problem. I hear the president of Lukudu is now what? A member of the council, of what, regional council, right? Again, it's unacceptable, absolutely unacceptable. And who knows, are you going to then use that to become the next parliamentarian? No, good if you want to do that, but no if you are doing that, why, as a sitting member of Lokudu, of the president of Lokudu? Totally unacceptable. And if there is going to be a revision in the Constitution, if they claim that there is not these clauses in the Constitution, the ethics of that place prudence demands that they change that Constitution and make it possible and start with the current president. So that if he decides and thinks that politics is what he wants to do, let him resign from that position and let somebody else carry on the affairs of the organization. And this goes for not just Lukudu. We're talking Lukudu just because we know. And now it's the same thing for Lukundem, for EGDA, for any other cultural organization. These are sacred spaces for the Bangwa people, for the Mwe people. They are not political arms of any political party, and they can never be, and they should never be. I feel very strongly about this.
Yes, thank you so much, dear viewer. I think this is some of the things that, because the reason why you see Dr. Emo being so passionate, because these are the organization that has served us. I mean, I've been to a sort, I've reported there. It is EGDA that is serving that same community. It is the Kudem that is serving the war. It is the Kudu that is serving the bank. So it is not something that we are just speaking out of space. Dear viewer, at this point, I think I will ask this question in ways so that because it concerns deeply the culture and the tradition, so that many parents may understood or may understand where Dr. Emon, we've been talking about the palaces being empty, empty before Sengangabi. In terms of listen, in terms of culture, one could be being we observe if it doesn't the culture because it goes beyond agabe from being to before do you dressing showcase when draw and then going a culture you before spend about 4 hours. It goes beyond that. For example, every belang you don't go traditionally one could be able or one could be a coastal area. What is then across for happening with Paraguay, say 10 years from now.
Yeah, very important question. As again, when chatimu question, what I'm able for before. Judengli, look, I'm not ling. Ibu, I agree. Gonna fairly gum boom, go 13 years old. Ingo was na fat cheer car, a church ambongo, ingong la colo zago church or the onion loser. Baby as a bit and tongue, we were bong the bang. Again, we were one color bang to chong. Tingiri, ibu manuza, in Kobe young bet my fontemasoni. El ro mbatinjio alagali butam da tandroma alagali bu nganga langa forever but ma fontem la fan and so on, but unfortunately we are this year we are going to boti bo illiterate meaning ge bola ko ale la boti ko ale rila jamba but bu the bong bolo gospels are most of the we bong be me titles be me degrees it bong because bolo ko ali appreciate ndio ko aliza azamza gu ngongzap ebu mbu ngu nyewe in function and nyewe the function because for alas na mbu bugli for you go for antima beli wo sa am the head anya anu zabon zang ten zang ndio ba anu lebur ala mambugo anu administration bola ma ambugo anu spiritual well-being ambo wenyang bola ma ambugo so guli for the body all bumbu and this is why gi wan tuabu ngongeli bekam tambo India everywhere because kamati song wa kamati song kamati ate zaso ba to go on ngu mbo song go gele go basi ndio mbo olusi that respect ndio mbo olusi that you could olusi met
Yeah, that's their title. Yeah.
and this is you mentioned what some tingly when young Asia go oh before we realized that we were tyrants but was there any gili truck ndio truck you babong but truck call road truck hat using bin tango for abam laka lendi
Indeed. Yes.
ko tango ji tango for nye wala len ala len tong ju yo len tong be ko nye mwe nye le ge mwe mbeka go go aga len tong we gi go ta iji bo me che go tong right but truck tango for ma len tong ju agendi because bull is the every gili bo fie go or the powers we have e ya go lo go bu bu ba wo long gu mbu mbeji o sa so wanya la na la but mbili gili go ko kren ponye mo ale mbin zili abuse me samsung mbo za manzagi bo lo ta lo e ke ba go ndio go ba ma la mo le ba bo so ngili mo bu nam go mo le ba bo fu nda bo trandi bo fu nda nda hala ndio ben ko go e ji bo bo na bi na jangala ntonganya zam jonga bu untouchable this is what would have happened so moja to America you was zo ji to America e como parents bi imbu ngali but she begins e bu ga enwe zunza but what you ask from bo so manu ji nkoma le go nganga nkoma ngabo go la ngole because we go school okay
Yeah.
ko go school ngin me manza zungo tasna so ma nye le cat rawos na ngwa na so ma nye zamza go za it won't could be as a for. First of all, just number an American. Tambu o kan ga alien ga die. So one bo ko wondia. Nso ga we ma bo so we. Bo ga tem ko nye ma li bo so ga ma daddy. I'm an American or I'm a Canadian or whatever and so on and so forth. And because culture gap that is the embodiment. Go let sole nget sole egebili gili bolo nandio again ali yang wengeli. Ngoma fi ati nga whole village ma gungwa.
Yeah. Mm.
Because go tohonye bege mi buka tagundi ya tishi. Bogon konya ndio
Kobe.
ndio
Oh,
anko
no, never.
mboko se nza o bung bi bu nza ba bung ba benu gina ala ba so bu fu ala godi yo na fa gu ba bu fo bu bis na fu ambu america the godi fu an zo bo ku america yes ngom ke bu nye we yi bu ko guri bu ko mi disa ngele bu elo ala ego fu nganga abi o ko bi anye we yi bu godi yo na fa bu na fa ala la so bu bin fan India go church be gang bi be check up both nku all understand ko ali zali be is your problem go nku all safi be zali gili before zumi go wondo tem jungle go sing bi na le bo njogo ngang ezo wo kuma America o fie bo fie for zuma bo ngonjia
Mm-hmm.
bo fie for zuma bo ngonjia be ko manye be level be nye bi access the bottom the crossroads unless in the baby Nigeria no ndị ga ala ekpo gele bonata ntunga bofua abi
Abibo.
right are we not seeing them now
Listen.
okay ndị ngili ibule boso ngwa ngili bonata ngu this and so on and so forth but Trotman and ngu whatever and so on are we still seeing it now
No way.
so baby na Nigeria because ingong change or reflect into the value as I'm supposed na deal or Canadian no culture and culture to draw at a boom at a young been
Mo bin gombin within na go.
the sum total as I'm a good work your belly beer. Your belly beer. So bibi na fa alege bibi zalege bibi bin fan njeme no zumwe mbapte azam jia abombo so important I am bozamza before magongwat bukan bangon tong be bibi bab ntong bi la bo ma bo nga si na jungle problem go ba ejibe bi na jia la ja face abo bi cha cha how do we do it because part of the reason give over to bab gu mbebo lo cha the palace is a baby it continue because amo am za bongu ngo bonzale baby manuza be ma empty lo godio
Yes.
ndio ga wa sama fo sama bo
Yeah.
right fo sama bo so gozen fo zenge jika delegate ngo problem jing o delegate ngo ngel nganga go mbu ali asof mbu ngoji a jeune ju bon access to go azali gri ju to ngoji go to ngoji go san delegate again so I talk about, and there's a lot of conflicts. No, upon JT ability, Bible Bible so you cannot save two masters at a time. All right. Because again, if we want to go back to our culture, the Alasia and how rich it was, everything Yalamu, Nkwale Baptinsia, Mbu as a people, as a group of people, Nkwale built from that culture. We must solve a problem go there. And otherwise, the problem go off. In thinking be a na cinema, the film of you want to Black Panther the former bo med Wakanda, and that Wakanda Abumbugi, it was like the most advanced city in the world, Ambubu. But for some long one could be a one kumambanga. I'm obegi julo zo mala sola yim obegi julo fun zo America. And Bojio nyeme film zo nji mbo jazam za bo na dia because gangi julo zola le gala na ngwala lengi for the abu ngwala abumbu very prosperous. Lengi jubin fu both overthrow yi ngang yalo for overthrow yi njonge just zoji mengang during the period yi mbanga wo alabi yi wo lot overthrow yi mbanga wo tehele atazam zabotang lebelemz atam ozam zam bi go na tang lebe sacred forests and so on and so forth all the tradition mbanga wo gari akoje jigaji lo na jo mu America ele bu bola mbinzari in state ngangi ale sola tal ebin zamzili bin fan is almost suffering from the same thing. So before that, we're selfish. Let me end with this. Fantamasongwanyi go zel and give all of you Jaman the go Fantamasongwanyi. Because of his allergy in your way, you don't draw will let be draw on behalf of will let be other protect will let be. They so admired him, but they didn't kill him. Even though they did the roller for many years. But go
Yes.
you exile lagi. You know that in going to exile, you know what Fantomas when you did, right? Alif chingili as onko angangalanga
Sure.
nche bet for. Okay? Alatiga bo representative bo alga bo for. Because it is the fish you go move, it is the whether you be for
Would you be the more?
Jubin Fenbo, right? Even though as long as what we all know, that is the dark part of our history. But when as when you came back, that's when you said, look, jite gu, jite spiel ali brother gibo. Mm? And this is why Azonoko
Uh,
was not killed. The Azonoko was well being Azonoko going time ngabo
the,
ngagwa mfiji ngiligo lo tabongo no ndongo.
Mangwa.
This is very important. So we're not before this they have to see themselves as going on that exile and stuff like that, and even more because the generations back will not know our culture. They are unaware, and your culture will be. And this is very
And this is quite true, Dr. Emo. In terms of, I don't want us to take so much into the in terms of what can be issue we all move to taboo to discover. But of course, and these are the reality around there. For example, when I'm young, Lomangri marry the member of cabinet. I go for you, or you go Wendy, or you go Asa, Inqueta, Mafua, Anqueta, Asaba. There are always like kind of maybe 5 to 6 members of cabinet. Ubulgode ebete esin fu amara gode unu wacha mba mingi mo fi ntesin josha mo mo maybe family planning you believe long fu won ko that it's ndenge won ko be won ta is up to that kind of family this thing go so mbo no mi we yon bon we nje hey meaning this transition already coming. So what we are saying here is not an abstract, it's a reality, is what we are really facing. So I hope that
Yeah,
for us
no,
in there,
it came from the leadership because you are building the next generation of leaders, illegally,
yes.
right? And the
Mhm.
biggest pillar of Lebialem people's leadership, the most important pillar is Nabeda traditional leadership.
Yeah.
When that traditional leadership fails, everything else is going to fail. Everything else would fail.
Okay.
And this is why Yabumbo is so important. Aligir, because Alice Zarigiri made that traditional leadership, we have it right. And you cannot just be trying to solve a problem, man, yeah, problem, Malagodio. You
I
should
know
be
what's
looking
similar.
at
I know. Mhm. Yeah, I think I think yeah, I think it was important. We taught this in the dialect so that at least my mommy or in the more, maybe I'm handling my usual that come and then my to Koskubia. So I think it was important for us to really touch that area. I mean, talking about all of this governor and all of this, then the kind of party that will play. You see, now they're already heading to Menji. Probably, I think tomorrow they'll be doing this election. I don't just understand how sometimes this election or the CPDM, there's no other opposition, but they already have their list. I saw a communique. They will have their meeting in Chang, something that we have been discussing, and probably this evening or tomorrow early morning time. I don't know if they'll use the helicopter as they have always done. Then the poor people will struggle on the road. They will go down to Menji and do the vote. And on the, just to say that, oh, we're in Menji. Everything has been done in Chang. They are having their last touches meeting right now in Chang as we speak. So you see, this is where when we are crying like this, and this is what is currently going on. I think people need to sit down and think and say, where do we keep our conscience? Where do we really take back and say, our community, when I retire, what will happen? Oh, I don't just care about this place any longer. I don't know how much we can emphasize on that. Uh,
So yeah, I think the most important piece that is actually this message goes to our people. Realize that the so-called political class that you have currently, in the time that they come to ask you for a vote, they are bringing the chains from Yaoundé to put on your neck and fasten it around your neck. It is true that just like what happened with the presidential election, whether you vote or you don't vote, that they get to do what they want to do. But I think that it is good to vote and vote against them massively, so that as again you vote, you do exactly what you did the last time. Vote and take these images of your vote. So we must be able to like so that the public, the world knows. In currently, beer is a pariah. That whole thing, CPDM is more or less a terrorist organization. In the hands of in the eyes of every sane person looking at internationally, because they're using it to terrorize the people. And if you had not voted on the date of the election for those of the people that voted and voted overwhelmingly for the opposition candidate, uh, they, their 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 plan would have succeeded, whereby they started the plan by getting every people, identifying people, and asking them, in ordering them, because maybe you know this or maybe you don't know that
Mhm.
in the list, Tasson, the minister who is now the alpha mayor of Lebialem, sent out a communique and asked, and letters of um, the letters requesting every individual, instructing every individual how much they would donate. It was not even a question of. It was not just appealing for
And
the.
a
No,
pay,
it was you donate this. In fact, and then some people had to even do a little bit more than above what he actually asked for, because they know, like I said, he's become the alpha male, and this is the reason why they're kind of putting this moribund regime in Yaoundé. When he did that and came up with this evil, ingenious thing about not only getting the the cultural organizations to donate, but making sure that their names appear on the list, so they could use it to go and say, yeah, you see, the whole Lebialem is behind you, and so on. It's going to be the same thing, but you, Lebialem people, you did the right thing by going to vote against them. It should happen the same now. So you pass a message to whoever, to these guys who are bringing stripes, who are bringing chains from Yaoundé, rather than bringing you, the necessary development. You
Mhm.
know, you pass the right message that you are not dumb, that you know exactly what to do, and you are going to always pass that message against them by overwhelmingly rejecting them. And we should do this. Once you do this again, then people would begin to see. And, that everybody has, life is about finitude, meaning that everybody has a lifespan. Mr. Biya can live another 100 years, many of which now he is practically in a nursing home in the presidency. But ultimately, he will die. And I want to tell the youth that you must, at this point, realize that the future of that place is in your hands. And you do not need the people, you don't need permission from anybody, to do the right thing. You see, and I always sometimes quote some of the religious leaders. St. Augustine said, right is right, even if no one is doing it, and wrong is wrong, even if everybody is doing it. So do not actually get to this attitude of actually
Yeah.
saying, oh, just because
Mhm.
everybody is doing it.
Everybody's doing it.
Do the
Yeah.
right thing. And I would say, as you look at it, sometimes Dubois actually mentioned it in something she called the three demons or the three temptations: despair, okay, um, the temptation of doubt, right? So, and when you start getting to a place where you doubt yourself, they want you to doubt yourself, to say no, nothing can ever change. Everything is going to remain the same. Or they want you to despair by saying, okay, for now, nothing more, or hate. If you want to hate, don't hate people, because when you hate, you become like the person, like your oppressor. But do this out of courage, out of love, and make sure that you stand on your 2 feet with your vote, no matter what they do. If there is no opposition candidate, you people should find one opposition candidate, and if there is none, you can do empty ballots and vote against the CPDM. Pass that message. Pass that message. This is not normal. What we are actually having, and probably maybe at some point, Mr. Ernest, I think
Mhm.
maybe have to start looking now. They talk about the list. I've really just been very disenchanted with the whole process now that I've not really been following to see what the list is going to. I mean, that who are the what parties are there in going to be contesting in the BLM. But I think we need to next time talk about, now that we have diagnosed a lot of these problems, solution.
Yeah, begin to look for
Look,
possible way out.
because solutions will mean we need to, at the level, and I need to talk a little bit more about at the level of the leadership of the cultural organization. Everybody enshrines it in their cultural organization law. It's a politica, and no matter what anybody do, the cultural organization cannot contribute into a political association. And a sitting member of the leadership of the of the cultural organization be cannot be partisan. I mean, let's do that first. In terms of deciding who will be your candidate of leading any of these organizations, as we said, if somebody comes and is a cultural organization, let us see their track record first. What have you done? Right? You don't need somebody with degree. You don't need PhD. We just need to know what you
Exactly.
have done.
Done.
And what is your plan? How realistic is that plan? Let's go to politics. We should not just leave the space vacuum, because in terms of politics, if there are 100 votes, if only 100 people vote and somebody has 51 votes, it doesn't matter whether there are um, 10,000 people in the community. It's going to be that they were going to declare that person who won, who got 51 votes, the
The
winner.
winner.
So I think much too often what has happened, what has failed us, is that we always use the old firefighter approach where we just sit and then wake up one day and then decide, oh, and then somebody shows up on the list, and then we start deciding who to vote for. We should be looking to get the real competent people who have the interests of the community at heart, to prepare them,
Hmm.
lay the groundwork and prepare them so that they will ultimately stand for this election, and we
Yeah.
should be able to support them. And so this is what the people have got to do. And in the traditional leadership, we must call our traditional leaders and hold them accountable. We do not respect our funds because of the number of degrees, the wealth they have, or their stature, or no, or our chiefs. We don't respect them because of that, but it is because they are an incarnation of the best of who we are.
Yeah.
They represent our ancestors. When we
Yeah.
go to call our ancestors, they are the ones that are communicating between us and them. And so, in order for that to show the best version of ourselves, we must hold them responsible and hold them accountable and call them out and have that courage to do that. Thank you.
Yes. Dr. Emma, I want to thank you so much for at least for taking the time to come out here so that we can share this thought. As you said, it is important that we really want to come back and begin to really look at some of the solutions, some of the way that we can really help our people out. Of course, you know that US will always have an influence, not just in terms of knowledge, but because we contribute a lot. And sometimes most of these people, of course, Dr. Emo, you'll be aware that you are also aware that some of these people, because of the terrorism, because of lack of freedom of expression at home, that some of these people they know they may not even have the voice to say it. So they look at their brothers and sisters in the diaspora, not just because we send this kind of militant, this kind of a little bit of money to support them, but in terms of idea, in terms of bringing change in the way that we continue to do. So I think in our next segment, we would like to begin to at least gear towards what can we really do, what proposition, an alternative path to really make our community a better one.
Yeah, no, definitely. And but I must say that fear sometimes is the most important too. When people begin to make you afraid,
Hmm.
they don't need any change anymore, right? When they control your mind to make you think that things are like this because they always will be and they always have been like this, then they don't need any change anymore to have to change you. So yes, Every one of us out here must speak and speak clearly. But the people back at home, they can also speak in their safe spaces. All
Yeah.
right. They must also speak within their own little communities where they are. I can understand there is a certain level that they may not be able to go. But at least at their cultural meetings, at least you can say no, right? So
Yeah.
that there are certain things that you can do. At least in the villages, you can say no, to some of the things that you can do. And we can at least, our phones are not tyrants. And that's not the way the Bangla community, the Bangla culture actually worked. The politicians are not superior human beings to you. That is not the understanding of that. You guys can be able to speak, and I have been seeing some of the people speak. And I think that the this idea of silence. In fact, there's a thing was a Nigerian writer who wrote and said, "Le silence, c'est la mort. Et toi, tu te dis, tu meurs, et tu ne dis pas, tu meurs, donc dis et mourir, et meurs." That is, silence is death. If you speak, you die. If you don't speak, you die. Don't speak
Better speak.
and die,
Better
right?
speak.
So
Yeah.
the problem is that this is the most important thing that the tyranny wants to weaponize, and that is fear. And once they weaponize it, once they capture you, then you start doing something that they call anticipatory obedience. Well, that means that you just like say, oh, if I did this, if I do this, this is what the leadership would want me to do. And otherwise, I'm going to be in trouble. You stop reasoning, you stop thinking for yourself. I mean, this is everybody should just look and just ask yourself very, very basic questions about the things that we're talking about and tell me whether any of the things is wrong. But you must speak up. If you don't speak, they use your silence as
Against you.
they use your silence as a
Weapon against you.
approval, as an
Yeah.
approbation of what they are doing. So you must speak.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, yes. Dear viewer, thank you. That was Dr. Edmond for that. Dear viewer, thank you so much for this wonderful presentation, for staying in with us. It has been a wonderful moment here at Gaza Media. So we'll continue to update you as things unfold. We remain at your service. Please, if you do share this link to the wider the BLM community for them to listen. There's a ton of information that we have been able to share in here. We do hope that a better tomorrow is coming so that a community can have access road, can have good water, can have good clinic, good hospital, can have good school so that our children can go to school. So that if you are sick, you can go to somewhere and taken care of. So that if you go to the farm, you can get your product and carry it to the market. So, and that is our interest here at Gaza Media. Again, we want to thank you so much and have a wonderful weekend.